This is a $13,000 hydraulic block. This is another $13,000 hydraulic block. And it doesn't take 2 hydraulic blocks to run our planter, so you might be wondering, why do we have 2? And the reason we had to switch from this hydraulic block to an identical, just brand new hydraulic block on the planter is because of one stinking 1/4 inch bolt. And the importance of one of these bolts is that it holds one of these hydraulic valves down to the cylinder block. And since one of them broke from rust and corrosion underneath this hydraulic cylinder, it caused a couple of the bolts and the threads to remain inside the cylinder block. It was these 2 bolts right here that broke. The threads are still in this one, and this is the one I tried using a drill and a left-handed drill bit to remove the broken bolt out of the block. Sadly, that led to me over-drilling, trying to get the broken bolt out of here, and ultimately ruining the threads in this hydraulic block. Up until this point, I wasn't all that concerned about the hydraulic block. I thought I would just be able to take it to a machine shop, drill some larger holes in the block, put in a slightly larger bolt. But before I could do that, I wanted to make sure it was okay from John Deere and the manufacturer of that hydraulic block that I'd be able to drill in a larger hole. And this is where things got really interesting, because the manufacturer of the hydraulic block, I talked to one of their reps on the phone and said, they're not able to release specs, they're not able to give out any information, it's all proprietary as to what goes on inside that hydraulic block. So I was basically at a loss of trying to figure out if I could drill a larger hole or if that would forego some of the structural integrity of the hydraulic block or the valve itself. Since this part is the heart of the planter, I would be risking, if this thing went down in the middle of season, John Deere said it would be 2 or 3 days before they could get a new one, let alone slapping it on the tractor, or spending $13,000 on putting a new one on to avoid having any breakdowns or issues with this block during the season. So those are my 2 options: to fix the old hydraulic block and risking downtime, or to spend $13,000 on a new one. So really I had 2 options, but I only had 1 option, which was being forced to buy a new hydraulic block for the planter. And in the process of changing our old hydraulic block to the new hydraulic block, we lost a fair amount of oil. So the first thing we're gonna do today is top off the oil reservoir in the tractor. Gonna open up another 5 gallons of hydraulic oil. Lucky for me, I've been practicing all winter long to lift big heavy things for this upcoming growing season by lifting some weights. So I should have no problem finagling another 5 gallons of hydraulic oil in the tractor. We will call that good enough for today. Now that the hydraulics is filled up in the tractor, the next thing I'm gonna do is start setting our gauge wheels. So these are the gauge wheels, which their job is to knock the dirt off the seed disc. So I'm gonna start checking these across the 24 rows on the planter. The way I've learned and found out the best way to check these gauge wheels is you're actually supposed to raise them up, because when the planter is in the planting position, this disc is down and the gauge wheel's riding on the upper portion of the soil surface. So I raise this up and I just barely want the rubber to touch the disc opener. That way it'll scrape any mud or dirt that stays on the disc opener off. So this one is checking out to be set perfect. On the opposite side of that same row, you can tell this one is completely too loose, just because when I raise it, there's no contact up here on the disc opener. So I'm gonna start wrenching this linkage arm a little bit tighter to bring that gauge wheel in a little bit. Here we are on the last gauge wheel. As you can tell, really sloppy and not tight up against the disc, so we'll make the adjustments that we need. about right for this gauge wheel. The next item on the to-do list for the planter is I'm gonna back it out of the shop and give it a nice power washing job. I figured since we spent so much money on this new hydraulic block and actually had problems with the tires from the factory that bulged and we had to put on new tires last year, why not power wash it off, make it look like a new planter? Even though it is a 5-year-old planter, it seems like we've had to put on a lot of repairs and maintenance into this thing, so might as well wash it off to make it look new again. Alright, let's see if we can remember how to fold this planter back out. That way it's easier to wash off. And if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I'm not sure I remember what controls I need to do over here to fold out the planter. So I might have to YouTube it to get the planter unfolded. There's one other thing on the planter that I haven't checked yet before this season. So since we're already in the cab, I figured let's check our row cleaners, make sure they're all working. What I wanted to check is this controller inside, which sets the pressure in all of our automatic air adjust row cleaners. So they should all be starting to raise up at the highest level. Power washing isn't the most fun job on the farm, but with Bluetooth headphones and country music, what more can you ask for? Done power washing off the planter. I haven't quite made it through my complete music playlist, so we're gonna grab the foam cannon and put a little soap on the planter to wash it off. There we go. Here it is, the all shined up, nearly new, ready to go planter. I was contemplating washing the tractor as well, just to brush some of the dirt off there, but ended up only washing the planter itself. But I could tell by the sun starting to set that the day was starting to wrap up. Since today is April 5th, in officially 5 days, we can start planting our corn acres, because that is when crop insurance, or the crop insurance date, kicks in for our area of the country. So I'm walking out to the field right beside our house. We've had over 3 inches of precipitation in the last 2 weeks to come out here and see what kind of the field conditions are like. To my surprise, the 3 inches of moisture that we've had over the last couple of weeks haven't measured up to much here in the soil. As you can tell, it's still really dry on top. There's a little bit of moisture here down below, but it's still dry out here. So I wouldn't be surprised that in 5 days we might be out there planting corn, which means I better hustle back up to the planter to keep getting things ready. The next item of order for me to do on the planter, I wouldn't say is all that new of technology, but the patent and design someone came up with on this set and seed tool, which allows me to check the actual depth on each individual row by setting the disc blades and then the gauge wheels on the yellow parts of this tool. will help me double check the depth on each one of our rows of the planter. As you can tell, it's got significantly darker out now, and I'm still struggling to get this set and seed set up correctly. It's supposed to sit under here on the gauge wheels, raise these all the way up until this bottom point rests on the disc opener, and then I adjust the T-handle to the 2-inch mark since all the rows might have worn differently. And I'm struggling with the jack to hold the set and seed up evenly on the gauge wheels. It's kind of just getting too dark out, so we'll pick this back up in the morning. It is a new day at the farm. I got the planter pulled out of the shop. I did a little bit of Googling and YouTubing last night, trying to figure out what I was doing wrong on trying to set the disc openers and the depth of the planter. And I think I got it figured out for how I'm gonna do it once we get the planter unfolded again. I should remember how to do this, since it was just yesterday that we did it for the first time of the year. My new plan for trying to set all the depth on each of the rows rather than screwing around with that jack I was using is I'm actually just gonna raise and lower the planter individually for each row. So that means I'll have to walk from here in the back of the planter up to the tractor 24 different times since Dad's out picking rock and Mom's gone for the day. But I think that's gonna be the most effective way rather than spending another $300 on a fancy jack that I'm not for sure is gonna work perfect. I'm just gonna do that for this year. Now I'm gonna walk back to the planter and see if this new method that I read up on last night worked like I hoped. I can tell the gauge wheels are set up and our disc opener down there is up our 2 inches. So that means this is our 2-inch depth. So we'll take our T-handle, raise that to the highest position we can get it. And I'm just gonna use a little Sharpie marker here. That way if it changes in a year or two from now, I can just wipe that off. Start doing this for the next 23 rows for our ideal 2-inch depth. I thought I was only gonna have to make 24 trips between the planter and the tractor, but I forgot that every time I lowered the planter, I needed to come back to the back of the T-handle, adjust that to the 2-inch position, then go up to the tractor, raise the planter back up. So after 48 trips back and forth, I think I deserve a reward. Couldn't finish it. We got some for later. After making all those trips back and forth between the planter and the tractor, it really made me think John Deere should just allow us to control the hydraulics in some sort of mode from our phone. That way, instead of me having to go back and forth, I could have just controlled the hydraulic with my phone. But given that today was kind of my only day to get this done, since there's supposed to be rain tomorrow, and I guess rain is kind of the reason the hydraulic block went out on the back, so we don't ever want to leave our planter out in the rain from now on. So I had to get this done today, which is why I did it by myself. So if John Deere wants to create that, I wouldn't have no problem being the person that gave them that idea. But for today on my farm, I'm gonna fold the planter back up. Notice that we're still low on hydraulic oil in this tractor today after running it a little bit yesterday and again today. So I'm gonna pull it back into the shed. We'll top off the hydraulic oil in here again. Since the planter is now folded up, it looks like the hydraulic oil indicator right here has come up a little bit almost to the top of the threshold. So I'll just take a note on that to keep watching the hydraulic oil level inside this tractor before we run it, since we don't want to run it low on oil. Now that the planter is about 99% ready to go for the year, I took one of our Polaris Rangers out to the field Dad's at to pick rock. And since it's like hurricane force winds out here, I'm not gonna record any picking rock today. So that's it for the video. We'll see you guys in the next one.